Let us look at some of the aggregate functions which are used in Oracle. Now these aggregate functions are used to find the aggregates of a specified column. They usually return one value, like if you try to find the sum of items which are there in the column, you will get one value. Or if you want to find the average of a particular field within the table, you get one value. Okay. Generally, they are used with the group by clause of the select statement, wherein we can group the items together and then try to find their aggregate values. These are the functions which are available in the aggregate function category. First one is the average, second one is the sum, next one is the maximum, minimum, count, standard deviation, and variance. These functions can be used as follows. We are all familiar. Sum is a function that is used to calculate the total that is stored in a numerical field. We can also use the option distinct or all whenever we are using the sum. Let's look at this in an action. I have the Oracle ready with me and I have a table called student which contains a few marks of the student. You will notice that the student here contains the marks which you can notice here. So there are a lot of marks which are available for every student. Let me try to find the total of all the marks. So to do that, I'm going to use the sum function. So I'm going to say select sum of marks. So I will say sum of marks, which is nothing but the field name. So this is this marks refers to the field name which is being used there. So sum of marks from the student. Now if I run this one, I'm going to get the total marks. So you notice that this is the total of all the marks which are there in the marks column of the student. Now we will notice that purposely I have put 2 marks over here, 450, which are identical. Now let me show you the difference between the sum of marks and writing sum of distinct marks. So here I can use the word distinct to get the distinct mark. Now you notice the answer over here. So the answer you get 2960, and if I write without distinct, I get a different marks. So the reason here is you notice that there is actually 450 difference between these 2 marks. So you get this for the answer for this one is this is the answer. For the other one you get the value as this. Now the reason for both of them is the 450 is repeated. When you say distinct, only one of them will be taken. The repeated marks will not be taken. So if you try to add the 450 to this one, you are going to get 3410. So this is how you can use the distinct. When you have the distinct, only one of them will be taken. If the values gets repeated, they will not be considered. There is also one option called as all, which is the default option, which you don't need to specify. That means to say that you want all of them. It's not going to make much of a difference because it's going to consider all the marks. Whether you say it or not, the default value is all. If you want distinct, you can say the distinct marks. So that is regarding the sum function. Let's look at the average function. So what's the use of this average function? Average is used to find the average of the values. So let me try to find the average. Again, average has the syntax average. Oops, I don't know, there's something wrong with Microsoft Word here. Okay, so average, either you can use the distinct or all and then specify the column. So let's go ahead and let's do that thing over here. So I'm going to go to my Oracle over here, and instead of the sum, I'm going to take both of them. Instead of this sum, I'm going to go for the average. So I can say AVG, or you can write it in small case or capitals. It's not going to make much of a difference. So let me run this average. This is not required. Okay, let me run this average. Let's see what is the average I'm going to get. So average is, you are going to get, don't worry about the precision there. So you are going to get 487, some value, you're going to get the average. Now what will happen with the distinct? Distinct is 493 something you're going to get. So distinct means repeated values will not be taken. Okay. So just to give you this analogy, that you can also use the average and sum function directly with the any of the field that are numerical. Okay, so I have just taken, if you look at this table over here, I have other numerical structure over here, which is the number. This is roll number is numerical. I can do it. Now what if you try to find the sum or average of course? We can notice over here the course is by default, if you notice the course field over here is non-numerical. Okay, so if you try to run the average on course, what you're going to get? You get it is an invalid number, because you know very well it is going to perform the calculation only on the numerical values. So that's regarding the average. Let's look at the next one. Next one is the count. Count is used to find the number of records, number of fields which are there. So let's try to go with the count. So I have the select here. I'm going to just you copy paste it in order to save the time. So I'm going to say count. Count can be used with anything. So you can say count course and then run it. So if you try to run it, you're going to get there are 7 records were there. So there will be 7 count will be there. If you notice there are 7 records are there, and you get 7 count there. Now you notice that VSC is repeated. What if I do with the count distinct course? In that case, what's going to happen? In this case, when you run it, you're going to get only 2. Why it is only 2? You notice that there are only 2 distinct courses are there. You have one set BSc, another one BA. This is repeated, this is repeated, this is repeated, this is repeated. So only one BSc and one BA. So the total count will be 2 in this case. So you can use count with the distinct. You can also use the count in a very different way. So suppose if you want to just count the records within the table, you can use count star. So this is a special option there. Count star means it's going to count the records which are there, which is nothing but the 7. So count, generally you find count star, which is used to find the number of records which are there in the table. Then we have other function called as max function, which is going to find the maximum. Again, it must be a numerical field. max, or you can also use the date and character, okay, field. So maximum among the two, and you can also find the minimum among the two. Let's try to go ahead with them. I can go here and I can just say maximum of this is not the one, a maximum of max. So max is the function, and max again you can write it in small case. I think max, okay, max were there. So maximum of max I would like to find. So I select it, I run it. Maximum marks is that, let me verify that with the student, and you notice that maximum marks is 560, and this is what I am supposed to get it, and I get the maximum. In the same way I can find the minimum of marks, so I can just say min, minimum of marks. If I run it, I got the minimum. If you want, you can verify it by just running it, and the minimum is going to be 380. So this is the one value. You can always use it. Now can I find maximum of course? Okay, so what happens if I try to find the maximum of course? So maximum of course is BSc. So why it is BSc? Let's look at the value there, run here. So next, if you notice that B is common and A will come next. So it is in the alphabetical order. First all are B is common. In the first B is common. Next one, the tie between S or A, S is larger, so yes, you are going to get it. Now if I say maximum of combination, to write combination, okay, maximum of combination, if you try to do it, what you are going to get it. So maximum combination is PMCS. The reason is very well, you have HEP and the C is very small, P is small, H is small. Among the P, see the tie is only between, if this is alphabetical order, tie is between PCM and PMCS. So PCM common is there, so PC, PM, you look at here, the C is smaller than M, then you get the maximum as PMCS. Okay, so this is regarding that. You can also find standard deviation. Let me give this a standard deviation. There is other two functions which are available. If you know what is standard deviation, you can, I'm not going to explain what is standard deviation. So STD, standard deviation, okay, this is available only in the latest version, okay, not on the older version. Suppose if you are using the older version like the one that I am using, this function may not be available, so this you are going to get it as some standard deviation. Okay, you also can get the covariance. Again, if you know what is the variance and covariance, you can always find the variance. So these are some of the aggregate functions that you can think of using in your Oracle. Let's look at the subquery. What is a subquery? A query inside the other query is called as a subquery. Suppose if you run a query and that query contains one other query inside it, such a query is called as a subquery. So subquery, or also called as an inner query, is the query that is inside another query. Okay. So what is the formal definition? A subquery is a select statement that is embedded within the clause of another select statement. That is called as the subquery. We will look at the subquery in the next session. Thank you for your interest. We will meet again in the next class.